Everyone, and hello all together. So I'm really glad to be the host today for this session. And what is it about? I think by invitation you already got the idea of. So it's exploring the virtual studios through LED wall. And I'm really happy that today we have a very nice guest speakers which join, and I hope you can all get the benefit out of them by our talk we are going to have. So to get to know more about details for virtual studios, about the setup, about technical backgrounds and so on. And for sure, once we are finished, you're welcome to contact us. I already tell you that in advance. You're welcome to contact us to ask questions if you want to go more into depth. So let us make it a nice networking afterwards. So again, I want to speak first about myself. So I'm the host. My name is Czimny, and I'm the industry product director of Absen. And I cover all the markets, all verticals, kind of all the world. So I'm the guy to speak with if you do have technical things in mind regarding our products. So if you would like to add something for future products and so on. So the first guest I want to introduce now is Totti Chen. He is CEO of Digital Fun, and later on he will go by himself more in detail what he's doing. The next guest I would like to welcome is Rene Romanowski. He's working for ARwall, doing the video production, and I also later on leave the word on him to go in depth with his introduction. Next guest is Rene Amador. He's co-founder and CEO of ARwall, doing software development for XR technology. And last but not least, I would also like to introduce my colleague, who is located in our branch in US, in Orlando. It's Feifan, and he's the product specialist over there. So this is already my short introduction of the attendees, of our guest speakers. Let me shortly, before they are going to introduce themselves, go into detail what we are speaking about, or what is virtual studios, what are virtual studios about. So it's essentially, or quite often it gets summarized, replacing a green screen. And what is the advantage by that kind of replacement? It's that actors, models, executives, and products can interact with the surrounding. So it's like I'm here on my stage at the moment, and I would be able to interact with my background as I can see what is written on, and and I can do the same within a scene, within a volume, which is the right term to use if there is LED all around us. And so I can interact, and I don't need to imagine what is over there. And there are also other nice advantages we will go through more in detail. So we can have reflections. So if I would wear glasses, sunglasses, you would see the content also in my glasses. Doesn't need to be done in post-production with a lot of steps. And my summary always, which I always do, is what you see is what you get. So I think that describes it quite well if we speak about virtual production. So, and it's also in my intention to shortly speak about some terms. So virtual reality means digital which exclude the real world. And then we also have the augmented reality, which is digital content on top of real world. And a next step is the mixed reality, which is digital content which interact with the real world. Just imagine that the virtual can be behind me or in front of me or both at the same time. So that would be the mixed reality. And last but not least, we also do have the extended reality, which is kind of combination of all three of them to get advantages of each of those, let's say, technologies. And that's it already from my side. I don't think I need to deeply speak about virtual and immersive. I think majority of you do have an idea of. So now I would like to go through the guests so that they introduce themselves. And maybe as a small guidance from my side, you can answer kind of three questions which I do have. So how did you get into the XR market? And what is your company's business in there? And last but not least, where do you see your position within that kind of market? So just as a small guidance, feel free to add more or to make a different introduction. So maybe we start with Rene.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate the intro, and I'm very glad to be here. You're finding me in Burbank, just next door to me. We're using Absen screens in our ARFX product in a major studio production. So I am hiding here in a recording room. And let's see, how did I get into XR? So I'm the CEO of ARwall. It's a company that I co-founded 4 years ago. And we actually started the company specifically with the purpose of moving away from green screen and towards LED XR backdrops. Now, at that time, it was a very young industry. There was maybe one or two companies that were looking at this at all. And we were the first company to specifically focus on these types of LED backdrops with camera tracking and everything like that. As far as what is our company's business, we create XR technology. We focus on the software side because, to be frank, there's a lot of work bridging developer tools, which are generally been created for game developers, and getting that into the hands of filmmakers so that's something that can be usable on set. So we focus on the speed of the product. We focus on the user interface and the user experience of the product, the actual operator that's going to be there sitting at the desk operating the screen, and making sure that person is fully empowered to be just as flexible as you would expect a makeup person to be or a lighting person to be. Out of the box, virtual production isn't quite there yet. So our product, ARFX, is intended to bridge that gap, and then we're going to continue to be innovating in XR for LED backdrops. So that's our business. We have a licensing business, and we license internationally. We also create all-in-one systems, so you can buy the hardware, the software, the tracking, and the support all together, which is unique. And recently, we started bundling that together with Absen screens, which has been very successful. We're using Absen screens right now, and it's a highly respected brand. So I'm very glad to be here.
Yeah, so thank you very much, Rene, and I'm glad to hear that you're that much satisfied with our products. And yeah, but as I said also at the beginning, it also fit for you. So once you do have something in mind which can be maybe changed on the products, which can be improved, I'm the person to speak with. So let me know.
I'll think about it.
So next, maybe we go to Wayne. Maybe you can introduce yourself a little bit more.
Sure. Hi, I'm Wayne Romanowski.
Hello.
I work for ARwall Entertainment. Some of you may know me because I've been around for a very long time. I've been using LED since 2004. Been using Absen products for almost that long as well, since I guess 2005 or 2006. And as far as using LED in film and TV, the first feature film I shot with it was in 2006. It wasn't an Absen product, unfortunately, but that was Spider-Man 3. That was my first feature using LED on screen. And we've done it ever since. It's not something new, just the tools we're using are new these days. But LED on cameras have been around as long as the product itself. So ARwall Entertainment, global company, lighting and video production. We've just built an XR stage in Lititz, Pennsylvania on the Rock Lititz campus, which is not currently using Absen tiles, but will be in the future as soon as they arrive. And we're building volumes all over the country. I mean, that's what everyone's doing right now. And as you can see behind me, I'm in the carpentry shop on a set right now, shooting a car commercial up the at the other end of the warehouse. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. So thank you. So in between, you made a very nice term, or used a very nice term. So you said LED on camera. So I just picked that up again, as this is also what I like to speak about. So because I see, and maybe you can agree on me, that the industry, and doesn't matter which, let's say, vertical we speak about. So for virtual studios and virtual productions, we can speak about corporate market as well. So each big company can use that. Retail markets can use that for advertisement, for their changing clothes and get into that stage. So there are much more opportunities than we are going to speak about today. And but what I see is that a lot of people are kind of afraid about the topic of virtual. First of all, for them it sounds new, and I like the sentence you made. So it's nearly the same since several years. So it's LED on camera, and I fully agree on that. That nobody need to be afraid, especially what we are speaking about today. So there are already a lot of several solutions out there. So. I hope you can agree on me. Just give me a check if I'm right, or anybody want to make a comment on that? No? Okay. So then I will give the opportunity to Totti as well, for sure, to introduce himself and what he's doing with his company.
Yeah, thank you, Christian. And it's my honor to be invited to this interesting meeting. And I'm from Shanghai, and I have a creative studio called Digital Fun, and you can see the logo. And we are a media production studio in Shanghai. And maybe I think I can show you guys a short video so you will know what we are working on now. And we are an international team. Actually, we serve like overseas as well. And we're trying to merge art and design by advising like innovative, interactive technologies. So usually you can see technologies and art, the combination of both in our projects. So, and we provide a sort of like creative services such as strategies and planning, art, design, multimedia, performance, and interaction development. So we did a lot like car launches and branding events like this, and we use a lot, LED screens are everywhere, especially in this kind of projects. And also the projection mapping, digital visual effects, and some like lighting installations. So that's how we're gonna do and trying to improve the user experience by like using different ways and approach to make things fun. So that's why we call it digital fun and using some digital methods. Yeah, and virtual reality is because last year COVID-19 everywhere, so we unfortunately we lost a lot of like performance clients, and we need to switch to online events, and that's why we start XR works. But so we are like a content creation studio, so it's not like very difficult for us to switch like performance to virtual reality. Actually, we use Unreal engines for a few years, so that's not that difficulty, and it's very interesting. This is a new world, but it's not like totally new to us. So we spent like a whole year in this field, and Chinese market last year is like amazing, and still the explosion of XR market. I think we will probably like talk about it later. But last year is like a magic year to this market. Yeah, and that's how I started XR. Yeah, it's like not in the plan, but the market make us start this like a very interesting works. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you, Totti, for that introduction, and also thank you for the video, as it also shows all the opportunities we do have with virtual reality. And again, I also like that you mentioned the topics you need to work with. So like Unreal Engine is not that new for you, so it ensures makes it even establish my statement that we shouldn't be afraid of all. So last but not least, I would also give few words to my colleague Feifan. So maybe you can also shortly speak about you and Absen in US.
Sure, thank you, Christian. So this is Feifan from Absen Inc. I'm located in our Absen Inc. headquarters, Orlando in Florida. I've been working with Absen for a few years, and I'm currently in charge of the product management in the North American market. It's actually very familiar with the role of Christian, but just in a different branch. And I'm really glad to get this chance to talk with our some specialists today about the virtual production industry. Of course, I get into this market because Absen is deeply involved in it, and especially for recent years. And as an industry, top level brand and manufacturer. As my product management role, it's my position to dig into and understand the needs from the virtual studio market and our customers, introducing Absen solution to the industry and get a mutual, growth and better solution with them. And I also, highly agree with you that we shall not be afraid at all for this new technology, for this new industry, because Absen is already, providing the solution to the industry and to our life. We have already done several, projects over the world, and also in, Absen US, we're also moving forward and we'll be making some progress soon. So, and anyway, any feedbacks and suggestions regarding the product is also great welcome to me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Feifan. So by this, let us now step into the first introduction of the virtual studios, and therefore maybe I first ask Totti. So what are the main components needed for a complete XR volume? So can you give us an idea?
Sure. I have a diagram. I think it's kind of like easy to demonstrate how it works between different devices. So I will talk about like from the hardware. So hardware usually start from the like LED screen and with the LED control system. And the second will be like camera tracking system. And next, playback system, media server, and also with the virtual engine server, and the last will be like audio and lighting setting on site. So you can see like there will be like a bunch of different teams. Not one team can complete the whole show. So usually, we have people from different studios and companies get together and start a few days, works on the settings on site, and then makes this happen. So you can see the XR server is the center. And camera, I think the tracking data with the tracking system, it sends the tracking data positions really positions back to the XR server, so it will render the virtual world with the same position or direction, and use this send image to the LED screens, and then use this camera to record the whole LED screens and make these positions correct between the actors and the backgrounds. So that's how it works. I know it's maybe kind of complex to normal people, but it takes time to make this happen. There's some pictures I took on site, so you can see a lot of people. So even though there are only like one host, I don't know if it's only you in front of the screen, but for the XR stage, there'll be a lot of people around and staring at you, make you very nervous. So that's how the team works.
So Totti, thank you first of all for the explanation. What this picture just remind me to ask for. So, is there any difference regarding, let's say, the number of people, the number of experts you need at a set in comparison to, let's say, traditional shots in the past, or still existing for sure? But is there a difference for the people?
I think it depends, especially the biggest difference will be the camera tracking system, because it needs to render everything real time. It's not like a pre-exist videos you can render and show on a screen. So you need cameras very precise position data back to the server. The server is very expensive. I will introduce later about the server. So it's a very powerful server, proceed of the virtual rendering real time, and also the sync between the a virtual image and the real person. So it's has to be very precise, or you will fly in the air like that. So that's, I think, the biggest difference. But for the other parts, like the lighting and videos and recording, we have a team directors here, and also the creative directors. So there will be not a big difference. So I think the biggest difference will be the real-time rendering and the XR team, between the technology and also how the content real-time rendering.
Okay, got it. Yeah, thank you. So maybe Rene, can you also add something on just the question whether there are differences between traditional movie production and nowadays trendy XR studio productions?
Yeah, absolutely. So the real-time aspect of XR has been the biggest part of the revolution, and the part that we've been focusing on at ARwall is basically having everything happen real time for final pixel and reducing the amount of post-production that's involved in these shots. I think prior to us coming on the scene, most people were familiar with CNN and the Weather Channel and that type of stuff. And I think one of the things that we pushed for, and one of the things that's happened in the past 5 years, is the focus on photoreal. Basically, no longer making it the depiction okay, there's a hologram or a CG element that's meant to read as a CG element on the frame, but that this is entirely meant to melt away, and you're just supposed to be focusing on performance and story and everything like that. So I think that aspect of it hasn't changed. Everything is still about storytelling for scripted film and TV and that type of stuff. But real time does a couple of things. One, it gives a tremendous amount of power back to those folks who are working in the digital artistry realm, who usually have been either, maybe you get a visual effects supervisor who's on set, who's telling people like, oh, do this, or do this, not that. Can we get a little bit more backlighting to get separation for the green screen or something like that? But then the rest of the effects process is pretty much done in a dark room, very much like the one I'm in the back of the studio, with those digital artists generally not even having a conversation with the director or DP in most cases. Instead of that, what basically is happening is my entire effects team is sitting right next to the director in the studio. And that is a fundamental shift, because visual effects and effects in general, computer effects, have become so intrinsic and integral to the filmmaking process, but there's been a disconnection in that communication, in that relationship between the effects team and the director, the DP, and the key department heads. So what our focus has been is like, let's get that virtual production department to be respected and to have a space in the soundstage and into the production, so that, we're going to the DP, we're going to the production designer, we're going to the director, whoever it is that we need to be talking to, and we're actually helping them tell the story in real time on set. That's a fundamental difference, because it's a return to the way things were prior to, I guess, what most people call traditional visual effects, which is green screen and that type of stuff, where, you built a set and the set designer would be talking to the director and they'd be looking at it. And then when the time the production came around, you were done, right? And you were basically had it all nailed down. And then in post, it was very little work involved. So that's the fundamental shift from a storytelling perspective. I can give you, I have a diagram as well. So I'm going to share that.
Please go ahead and share.
Yeah, I'm going to share that right now. Part of the diagram will seem very familiar, but the other part will be a little bit different, and I'll let you figure out why.
So maybe a small question in between. So you said that fundamental difference is that you now do have direct contact to the director as an example. So had it been something directors need to get used to? Because I imagine just not being on the sets by myself, well, I can imagine that normally they do have something in their mind, they go through, and now they need to get used to interact and to discuss with others, isn't it?
Yes, it's a whole other department that the director has to deal with. We're parallel to the camera and DP department. So that's very nice, because we have a direct communication line to the director. We're generally sitting right next to the director on set, because he has to say, make it higher, make it lower, make it brighter, make it less saturated, whatever the case may be. This is an example of what the actual materiality of an on-set experience looks like. Obviously, this is rudimentary. I don't have lights and, or actors or anything in here, but this is the rudimentary aspects when you're setting up a virtual production. Just a minimum, like a single wall. You've got some Vive base stations or trackers. Of course, on a professional production, you can upgrade that to Stipe or Moses or Encam or whatever, Vicon, whatever you want to use. But this is the fundamentals right here. You have the camera tracker that sits on the camera. Usually that's speaking either wired or wireless to the server. And then the server is pumping out that amazing real-time image onto the backdrop. Now, let me compare this with a green screen version of this. This is the traditional visual effects pipeline, and you'll notice something. The first thing you'll notice is that it's somewhat similar. And this is like what you would do if you wanted to use the most similar type of equipment, but go to a green screen. So for those folks that are familiar with real-time green screen, hopping into XR is basically going to be a couple things. One is it's going to be learning about LEDs, and which I think is why we're having this webinar. It's something to know and it's something to think about. And then also thinking about like signal control and the interplay between physical set pieces and digital set pieces, which is one of the biggest components of it. Let's say that you have, a gate that you need the character to open. If it's much easier to have that gate be physical, but then everything else in the scene be virtual, so that you can spill light onto the subject and onto the gate and everything like that. So this is just an example of how they compare, and I can show you a video as well that shows you some behind the scenes of it. I think that might be helpful.
Yeah, feel free to do so. we should spend the time because pictures and movies can explain often much better and more than speaking about.
I'm going to do it now.
But by the way, continue. But by the way, I really like your first diagram, because you figured out a 1.5 millimeter LED screen, and by accident and by fortune, I do have one in my bag as well.
That's very nice. Okay, so you should see a beautiful girl full frame. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to play this for you. This is something that we did with our partners, Soapbox Films. Soapbox does quite a bit of work for major productions. And so, of course, sometimes the most in-demand thing is to do a simple backdrop, like a reflective floor or that type of thing. Here we have something a little bit more photoreal, like a desert environment. I feel like it looks pretty pixelated on Zoom, but hopefully you get the idea here.
But exactly, so it's about the idea and this give the right idea.
So next, that's going to show some behind the scenes, so you can see what we accomplished. And what you're seeing is going to be very familiar to you. It's basically what I showed you in the diagram. It's a camera in front of a single wall, and then our server is sitting on one side of it. This is probably the most popular scene that's been done with XR. Everybody tries this for their test shoot, the nice subway. And you just get a C-stand for your bar for the actor to hold on to, and you're ready to go. Right now, that's basically the type of work that we're up to. It's doing photoreal backdrops, tracking the camera, and then doing everything in real time, so that there's very little work involved in post. And I think for those folks that are thinking like, how is this going to be a fit for me? If you're a filmmaker, ultimately what it comes down to is this is just another tool in your tool set, in your belt, that's going to allow you to tell your story, and hopefully is going to do so in a more efficient, cost-effective, and creative way.
Yep, so thank you very much. So now we already stepped quite deep into all the technologies needed for an XR stage. But let's say last but not least, I would also like to hear something about from Wayne. So maybe you can cover if there are some technical requirements as we later on for sure more deeply go into LED. So maybe you have something in mind except LED, and from technical perspective, from the perspective doing the setup on site. So is there something specific?
Well, I don't have a fancy video or diagrams, but I do have a piece of plywood as a mouse pad. The technical requirements, it's all dependent on what you're shooting. As our previous two speakers said, there's no one fit solution. So once you know what you're shooting, what your goals are going to be, then you're going to start looking at things like your space, your budget, what cameras, what lensing, and everything integrates. What servers, what LED product. Certain combos work better than other combos. I think the most important thing is the LED technician, where they need to be more than just a screen builder. When we're talking about one-offs, not a pre-built volume that's already existing. But if you're renting something and the technician needs to go in, I started out programming media servers in the early days, and I was a former lighting director. Those are all skills that help. Going on a feature set for a first-time technician, probably not a good idea, because the language and the workflow will be so foreign to them, they won't be able to keep up and deliver. And the art director, or visual effects want. So I think that's the big change. Our technicians are going to have to learn new languages, new skills. You have to know as much about cameras and lensing and servers as you do about your screen. And all of those departments have to be on the same page and work as a team. So you have to be able to speak the same language. I think that's the biggest challenge.
So I somehow catch the idea that before Rene said that it's a team in front of need to interact with the director. So at that time, once he made the explanation, honestly I didn't expect that the LED technician on site is also part of that interaction. So
to a lesser extent,
maybe I got you wrong, but is it for you speak about the setup where he need to be familiar with all the specific terms in TV, in movie industry, or is it also during the shots?
You better know it during the shots, because when they're calling things out, if you don't know what's happening, you're going to make a big mistake.
Yeah. Okay.
I had when I first started in film back in the early 1990s, I had a gaffer say to me, "It's not a place to learn on a feature set. Go do a couple of PBS specials or, small episodic things, local cable channels." Unfortunately, my first photo experience was on a feature, which was an Oscar-winning feature for Best Picture. So I learned the hard way.
Okay, yeah, well, I think it's also a kind of question of generation, to be honest, because I've done a similar way to learn by the hard way, and from the beginning, and nowadays it's an advantage, and I see also you as a very experienced guy in that industry, so starting a bit earlier in the past. With all the topics, therefore you do have the advantage nowadays that you still do have deeper knowledge in mind. So it also reminds me to TV cameras or even cameras. So if you are not familiar with cameras and what technology is behind, then I fully agree with you. LED technician need to know a bit more about, otherwise he can't solve a problem if there is any.
And these are all unique situations too. We just did an install for a late night television show, which I'm not at liberty to say, that's using an Absen product, and I was the face on site. So when they were looking in the studio at the monitors and seeing things, I had to be the one to answer the questions. That wasn't a media server programmer who was answering that. It's the LED technician, and I had to find the solutions for them.
Yep. So let's say as a next step, we move to the next topic, speaking more deeply about LED, because I think a conclusion all of you made is if we speak about the difference of green screen production and let's say traditional green screen production in comparison to XR nowadays, also big difference are the LED screens. So Wayne, I would like to pick you up again. Before I said let's speak about except LED, but now let's pick up the LED topic. So what are the requirements for an LED? So we just heard or seen actually from Rene that he suggests to use 1.5 millimeter pixel pitch. So what do come into your mind? Because I think there were a lot of things to consider, but maybe 2 or 3 you can speak about.
Well, I'd love to use 1.5 millimeter on every shoot. Unfortunately, we're in the rental and staging market, and that doesn't usually work out for budgets or durability. And the bulk of the things are being shot on sub 3 in the 2 millimeter range, 2.5, 2.8, 2.9. This year I did 1 feature and 4 episodic using Absen M2.9, and it looked beautiful on camera. So I think, requirements, you definitely want to be in the sub 3. It depends on a lot of factors. Again, your lensing, your cameras, your lighting, the depth between the performers and the wall. If you've got performers right against the wall, yeah, you're going to want a finer pixel pitch to eliminate moire. There's other ways of doing it. There's tricks like putting in a digital low pass filter, depending on the type of camera you're using.
Right.
Things such as that. The biggest thing as far as LED goes, absolutely pixel perfect, 100% pixel perfect builds and 0 seams.
Yeah. So maybe I can also add that I think one of big concerns is reflection, isn't it? So maybe that is a part where Rene can speak a little bit about. So what is the effect of reflections on an LED screen to the software and to the accuracy of the software?
I want to clarify. You're talking about glare on the screen. Or are you talking about reflections on vehicles and that type of stuff?
Oh no, I speak about the glare on the screen. So because that is what I think need to be taken care of if you select specific products.
Yeah. It is definitely a concern. Some LED panels tend to be a bit more glossy or a bit more, I guess you would call it gray, versus being a deep black. In actuality, the sorry, I think I stopped recording. There we go. In actuality, the DP, any DP worth their salt, should be able to deal with almost any amount of glare. And I know that, the DPs out there are going to go, oh, you're expecting me to flag everything and louver and do all that ambient light spill? Well, yes. I mean, what we're talking about here is maintaining true blacks that don't get milky. When you turn on that ceiling panel or that spotty or that key light, you don't want to see any visible shadow. You don't want to see any milkiness in those blacks. That's really key. And the way that you do that is you control that ambient light spill, just as you would with most process shots, whether you were using normal projection background or you're doing green screen or you're just doing poor man's process for vehicles and that type of stuff. So what I would say is it's gotten better over the years. The recent acclaim in AX that we saw from Absen, we're spotlighting and keying directly into the screen and not seeing any considerable milkiness that we would see on some of the older screens that we've used. So I think it's definitely less of a concern now. But I just want to be clear. Every screen will have some amount of glare, and it is the production and the DP and the gaffer's job to make sure that any hard hits, any hard speculars that hit the screen are flagged, are louvered, are controlled in a reasonable way that they should know how to do. So I think if you're coming from the G&E and the camera and lighting department, this is going to be somewhat of a new challenge for you, but it shouldn't be anything beyond what you would normally be doing. For example, if you were on a very glossy wallpaper or that type of thing, and you were getting lots of severe highlights, you'd need to be able to control your ambient light spill, and this is no different from that.
Yep, thank you. So I think now is really the point, because in between I always got it several times in mind. Now I need to get it out. So out of all your explanations you made for the equipment for an XR stage, I think I'm right to summarize it in that there is not existing the one and unique solution. So it all the times depend on application, it depends on budget, and so it means you always need to do the consideration from the really starting point. So if we speak about pixel pitch, if we speak in case of LED, if we speak about camera types and so on, so we need to, I think, do several loops of consideration depending on all of those ecosystem parts, isn't it? So maybe Wayne, you can shortly give some comment again.
Yeah, I mean, that sounds scary when you're saying you've got to have all this forethought and planning, but that's what a production is. That's what we do on live productions, film, TV. The magic of show business is planning. You can certainly rent an LED screen, put it up in your garage, have your band play in front of it, and someone do playback on a laptop. That works. It is what it is. It works. But
Exactly.
at the higher professional level, and when you're getting into XR and cinema, there's a lot more considerations, and you just need to take the time.
Yeah, thank you for that additional summary. So, but that's what I think need to be the message out to the people which attend this this webinar, so this roundtable. So they need to know what are bottlenecks, what are working procedures to get a solution. And it was my intention to kind of shout out there is not the one and only solution. So you can do a lot of things. Really depending on what kind of level you are looking for. So maybe Totti, now I want to also speak with you. So maybe you can give us an idea what are your LED floor, LED ceiling used for? So is there any, are there advantages, disadvantages using LED floor and also LED ceiling? So what is your experience when it need to be used or when you should avoid using also ceiling and floor?
I think there are a lot of clients. I don't know if you guys have like these similar questions, like how big the LED screen I will rent, and like is there like a standard like a scale of LED screens good for shooting? But for me, I think like basically, if we have enough budget, the bigger the better. I think that's why, usually, like you said, like a good cinematic effect needs like a lot of LED screens. And the reason of that, I think the main reason, I think Rene just covering somehow, is the refraction of light, and that's the same result of we use the seating and the ground. I think as we start from a lot of like a car launch and vehicle, Rene just mentioned, the biggest issue is the reflection of the vehicle, of the top of the vehicles. I can show the PowerPoint, maybe it's easier to understand. So you can see like, because maybe the Hamlet, you can see like more or less the refraction of the LED screens. If you use like a green screen, they will be like green. There will be like a disaster. Like just what you saw me behind me, like a green screen, but the audience don't want to see that, so we need like a LED environment. But because of the angle of the vehicle, you can see the reflection of the seating. So if you don't have anything, you will see the like stage light. You can see like a truss on the seating. There will be not a like very good result for most audience. And also I think not just because of refraction, but also the material, how to show the real material, like your face. You have like a metal Hamlet or wood sword or something, the weapons, and how do you make people know that or feel that? That's how we use a refraction of the lights. So if we use like LED screens like surrounding the real people, you can see like a real simulation of the environment. So you will see like the real refraction of the material. I think a lot of people have seen this video from the YouTube, and they use like a virtual light to light up the face to simulate a sunset environment. That's very cool. You can see it looks like very real. It's not just a green screen, because it will lost a lot of like small details. So there will be like it's for the virtual shooting. There will be like it's like, I think you already like spend a lot of money on it. You can still see like green face or green screens from your glass. yeah, so that's not.
Yeah. So Totti, indeed, the pictures or the video you have shown about the guy on the motorcycle with the sunglasses had been in my mind at the beginning once I said, to explain Virtual Studio and reflections. So that had been exactly the same in my mind. But to continue with you, so from content and visual effect perspective, so what kind of LED wall specs matters and why? So are there specific requirements from your side, as I said, from content and visual effect perspective?
Yeah, you're talking about the LED quality, right? Yeah, I think that's the biggest issue for most LED shooting, and I already prepared the next step, but I will talk about it now. And that's the first. I think that's the we call it like the visible angle. I don't know if that's correct. The word like if you see the LED screens, if you usually because of the XR Studio is like this angle. I think. Let me see if I can see.
Yeah, so you speak about the viewing.
Yeah, the viewing angle, yes.
And that you do have different angle to the surface of the LED.
Yes, and that's I think it's. Yeah, that's I think the 90-degree. That's what. Not very friendly to most of cameras, because if you like shooting from the one direction, they'll be like parallel with the other side of the LED screens, but the result is the viewing angle. If not a good quality of LED screen, you will see the different color of the image. So usually you will see like a red image on the left side of your LED screen, and the normal in front of screen. I think that's the issue of the LED shooting. Usually happens in this kind of situations. And the next will be the more pattern, right? Is that correct? The more pattern. So you will see like because of the hertz, the differences between the camera and LED screen, the refresh rate is different. So you see the more patterns or something. I think that's the another big issues for shooting. If you have a very good content, you have very nice rendering, real-time rendering, but in the end, you have like the more patterns, different colors. You can see like the seam between the left screen and the right screen. So, and then I don't know why you spend a lot of budget in rendering these big screens. So this kind of like issues, I think, happens in our shooting. So we try to find a very good quality of the LED screens, like Absen ones. I think last time I went to Shenzhen and saw the demo of the screen. That's very good. The viewing angle is very big, so when you move your camera, there won't be a big difference between the different screens with the different angles. So that's very important for our like content team. So yeah, that's it.
Okay, so it's just let's say kind of question in between. So now you, for myself, to be honest, you kind of raised several concerns. You've spoken about issues, and that's my habit. So once I get in mind issue, I don't want to keep issues. So means is it possible to get rid and to find solutions for? So I think that's next step, which is interesting for the audience. So how to solve, and are there limitations to solve?
like you said, I think there are a lot of ways you need to like think about from different directions, like your budget, like if you have the vendors, if you have the space. So usually, you know, a good quality of the LED screens you worth to use to rent, because that's the most important. And find a good quality of LED screens is very. I think a lot of people, especially our clients, usually ask us questions. Why do you rent the LED screens with that high price? You know, I will say, well, you know, it's hard to say like to our clients, like I can't explain the difference between LED screens. In their minds, LED screens, like the television is television, no difference, and the monitor is monitor, right? So the computer, so why some computers is like more than like 10,000 US dollars and some is like 10,000 Chinese yuan. Why it's different? They are all PC. So I sometimes hard to explain, but usually I use the result to show the difference after demos, you know. So, okay, well, we have different levels of solutions, you know, like small budget, medium budget, and big budget. And we need to balance the result and technologies and different teams. Yeah, if with small budget, maybe we can balance maybe not the best result, like, you know, limit the moving angle of the camera. You can only shooting from like small scale. If you have like a big budget, you can do whatever you want. You want to like, you can use a drone, you know, taking pictures and re-shooting, you know, from different, very freely. So that's how I would suggest to our clients, you know, to choose a way, you know, the affordable way or the best solutions under the budget and the current situation, you know. So, and also others like lightings, audios, they all matters. So that's, you know, you need to think about from different teams or different technique and art sides.
So somehow you have done me the favor, even that it wasn't my intention. So kind of now we come automatically back to the topic we had just before. So and where Wayne helped out to give the answer for. So we need to consider about all the details for every new production, for every new setup, for every new application. So it's not easy to answer. So now we are sitting here all together, experts in our segments, and that's still what customers finally need to do. They need to consult several of the experts sitting together. For sure, I can understand a customer perspective. Shouldn't be too much people having a discussion to come to a conclusion finally. But yeah, there we come back to what I said, several rounds of consideration of speaking about details. Yeah, Wayne, you want to say something?
Yeah, because we touched on a lot of topics there, and I know there's some of the ones we were talking about, plan to talk about down the road. With LED, we all get this. Why can't you use a cheaper product? And there's different factors that cause a product to be more or less expensive. But it's things like, you know, scan rate, not just refresh, but scan rate. That's huge when you're on camera. Then there's other considerations like certifications for FCC compliance. You know, there's all kinds of other factors that you can go buy an inexpensive product from a generic manufacturer. But when you get it on camera or start opening mics up around it or using wireless systems, you're going to have problems. the other part of that is the processing engine. Which processing platform are you going to use? And we all have our favorites. I'm not going to throw any names directly out there. But, some colleagues and I had this discussion last week that in the end, the client doesn't care what processing platform it was, as long as the image shows up right on their camera, which is true and not true, because the difficulty in getting it there.
Yeah, but it's also, I think it's also depends then finally on the team sitting together, isn't it? So there need to be, as you I think summarized already at the beginning. So all need to work together to get the final result and to get the result the customer is looking for. And so it's if you just select out of budget. Maybe then you don't have the right partners by hand in case there need to be adjustments. So I think that's also some consideration customers do need to make, isn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, we also started talking about color was the other thing I wanted to address. Which goes along with your processing engine and your servers, how you're delivering content. And Totti mentioned angle of incidence with the LED, which viewing angle you're at. So a curved volume, much more friendly, but up until recently, curved volumes provided difficulties to servers when you're doing set extensions to extend the content beyond the screen for the geometry. The 90-degree was a little more friendlier, although it's horrible for cameras. And then now we're doing a flat wall in the back and 45-degree angles on the sides, which is even more friendly than a 90-degree, but still poses difficulties. On our XR stage, I handle all the color work. So I chip the cameras, I chip the screen. And you want to use professional scopes. You want technicians who know what they're doing, because your screens need to be perfectly chipped in order for the server to do what it needs to do with the LUTs and make that compensation for the different camera angles. Otherwise, your content's never going to match, especially in an XR environment.
So this kind of guide me to Rene, and let's say now it's also time to hear you again. So what is all about for that kind of setup regarding software, regarding content played out by the software? So as you are the expert for the XR software, so maybe you can follow up on that, what we've spoken about from hardware in front of camera, and now speaking about the kind of brain of everything.
Absolutely. So, I mean, software is the upstream source for everything that these folks are talking about. You can have everything perfect on the LED screen. You can have the greatest processors, greatest cables, greatest chips, and everything like that. But if your source is not where it needs to be, all of that is going to go to waste, right? So what we do is basically we have an intensive rehearsal process and an approvals process before any production. So when an artist provides us a scene, whether that's an in-house artist or a contract or third party, we look at that scene with the most visual acuity and getting the most visual acuity specialists that we can find. And usually these are folks coming from cinematography and visual effects. And what they're looking for is things like the quality of the shadow, the quality of the materials, and everything like that. Now it's become a lot easier because Unreal Engine has purchased Quixel and Megascans to get high quality shaders and materials and that type of stuff to make your scene. So then the question becomes, how do I ensure that in the real-time process there isn't anything that's going to degrade my image, or that's going to the other big one is like add 2D effects to a 3D environment. So I'm talking about things like chromatic aberration, vignetting, bloom, those types of things. You want all of that. Those are what we would call optical effects. Things that are that happen between the point where the photon hits the first lens and hits the sensor of the camera, right? In that entire process where it enters the lens and then hits the sensor of the camera, that's what filmmakers would probably consider a magical, sacred process. And you want to maintain as much of that happening in camera and the least amount of that happening on the actual signal that's going to the LED. So what you should see on the LED is probably what you consider with your naked eye, a pretty flat image, meaning it doesn't have very deep shadows. The highlights don't seem very bright. It kind of seems like almost like something is wrong. But when you look through from the perspective of the camera, what the camera is going to do is add that beautiful cinematic gamma curve to the image, and it's going to that flat image that you're seeing with your naked eye is going to give the DP and the DIT on set. For those of you who don't know, the DIT is basically like the signal and image and a professional who's making sure that image quality is really high. Those folks are then going to be able to lock in the contrast and the LUT that they're interested in getting for that shot. Usually that's a pretty naturalistic look. We have sometimes done that ourselves within Unreal Engine. We're using the post-process volume to do some 2D effects. We're also using third-party plugins for color control that allow people to use control panels and that type of stuff. So all those traditional color control tools are things that can go into this stack as well. But coming out of Unreal Engine, which is the real-time engine that we use, we're really focused on just creating the most photoreal scene that we possibly can. Once it comes out of Unreal Engine, there's considerations with making sure that your cadence is correct. That's a combination of frame rate, the sync that's coming into the system, and a few other things that are really nerdy. But sync is an important aspect of it. I think Totti mentioned that one of the things that you get is striation artifacts that can occur on the screen. Sync generally, or sync and genlock in combination can generally solve that so that you're at least reducing the striation on the screen to almost little or even nothing in many cases. It depends on the camera, so there's a good consideration there. But so what we do is an approvals process that lasts about 2 weeks. And then we generally, for a major production, we have a technical rehearsal that we demand, which is a full week, at which point we are shooting every single angle with the lens and camera that they're going to be using on the production. This is not something that everybody does. Some people just show up, 24 hours ahead and they try and set it up, and in those instances you end up having very long nights. And I'm sure, we've made that mistake before where we thought, hey, we're gonna show up and we're gonna kick everyone's butt and we're gonna make it happen, and you just eat dirt for the first day or so of that production. So I would definitely recommend rehearsals. As far as the stuff that's not software, the pitch size of the LEDs, I personally like 1.5 millimeter when I'm purchasing a screen. So the screen that I own is 1.5 millimeter, and that seems to be a good size. But I know that the industry is standardizing around 2.3, 2.6, somewhere around there, and that's a good size. It's something that we've shot on as well. In any case, the higher you go the lower you go in the pitch, the more resolution you're going to have to be pumping out for the same dimensions of screen. And that is an additional consideration for the software. That's going to be an additional processing load on the software. So you want to find that balance. There's a certain point at which your system won't be able to effectively pump out that amount of resolution on a single system or on the number of systems that you'd like to be working on. So that's something else to think about when thinking about pitch size as well.
Yeah, I fully agree with you, and I'm as I said, fully with you, because already, let's say in normal life, if we don't speak about XR, I'm still nowadays surprised that people are looking for small pitch, which means high resolution, as you mentioned, but not considering about the playout system and about the processing power needed, and also on your end, I think, doing the post-production and getting the content for. So I think, and please correct me if I'm wrong. So the higher the resolution, the more processing power on your side you do need, and the more, let's say, time for preparation. So that's quite often not in consideration. So just go for the best would be nice, but please think about what means that as an effect for all parties in that scene.
I think that's exactly correct. There are odd things that happen when you start to get very, very tight pitches. Like at one point we were looking at 0.9 and 0.7, like sub 1 millimeter pixel screens. There's weird things that happen at that tightness. And I think that we backed off of it because of that. One was the processor load that's required to deliver, a good sized screen. But then there's other things like some of the artifacting that isn't as present in larger pitch screens starts to become very, very prevalent in sub-pixel. Things like refresh artifacting. You might be on a 1.5 and not see anything, and then you go to a 0.9 and you all of a sudden, because of the fine detail that the camera and your eye are perceiving, all of a sudden something is there that you didn't expect. So it's always good to test. You can't think like, okay, I'm going to do exactly what the Mandalorian did and think that's going to work for every scenario. But then you also can't just throw money at the situation and expect that, I'm going to go 0.9 and that's going to solve all my problems. It doesn't really work that way. There's a balance here, and then there's a sweet spot that you're going to be wanting to play within. And outside of that sweet spot, you start to run into non-traditional problems where less and less people know how to solve those problems. If you stay in those sweet spots, then you can address pretty much every issue that comes up, because they're issues that are common, other people are commonly facing. And I know that's like that's a weird way to think about it, but the reality is, I would love to have 100 Waynes who know, this background. I would love to have 100 Totties that have experience doing these type of productions. But the reality is, there's probably maybe 200 of us in the entire world that know, exactly how to nail down these problems in a high pressure onset situation. And you want to make sure that those folks are empowered to do their job as well as they can.
So there was already a very nice summary, Rene. Thank you for that. So even that my next point in mind had been experience and challenges of LED wars for virtual studios. We already covered everything, I think, and so we can't go in detail for all the topics. Well, I really see within this round that how professional you are, because even that I didn't ask for, you mentioned everything which had been in my mind. So to speak about, to give the audience the right informations. So it's also here a kind of balance. So how we can, or as I said at the beginning, so don't be afraid about virtual. It's LED on camera. Please remind maybe setups you have done in the past with an LED on camera. But at the same time, find the right balance. You still need some experts which can advise you and give some hints to get to a successful XR stage. And this brings me to, let's say, our last point, so to suggestion and investing in a virtual studio. So Rene, also again for you. So what are some successful marketing strategies for a new virtual stage to become profitable in XR virtual production?
Absolutely. So the thing that's going to be different for stages entering the XR space, that maybe they have green screen, they have a 3-wall cyc, or maybe they have an LED screen, which is just playing back some pre-recorded video, driving plates, that type of stuff. So if you're in that world and you're looking to make the leap into XR virtual production, there's a few things that are going to be major considerations. The first one is what is your tracking technology? How are you actually going to track the camera, the props that are on set and everything like that? There's a few big boys out there that are traditional players, but I think I can share this safely that within the world of XR film and TV, Stipe and Moses seem to be making very good inroads into that space. There's, of course, Vicon and OptiTrack as well, who are more traditional tracking players. And then at the very low end, there's the HTC Vive, which is, you're doing a music video commercial or live stream or something like that. It's going to be a perfect fit for you. So that's the first one. Usually what happens is people start with Vive and then they go to Stipe or Moses, and then they do professional work with that, and then they can graduate to a more complicated system when they're ready for that time. The other thing is going to be the actual talent, the actual people who are talking with the director, talking with the DP, who are on set. These are very specific people. There's people who have technical background with setting up screens and trackers and that type of stuff. There are people who have troubleshooting experience, IT experience. They know what to do when a GPU gets hot, when a piece of RAM gets corrupted. They know what to do in those scenarios. And then the other aspect is going to be just that they have an eye. They know the difference between a gain shift and a gamma shift. They know what a gamma shift looks like. I mean, that would be pretty amazing for someone who has all those other skill sets to have that skill set. So those are the type of people that we're looking for. It tends to be people who have cinematography backgrounds or who have real-time software backgrounds, who are very interesting multidisciplinary people that want to get involved. So the biggest mistake that a stage does is they get the equipment in, they get this screen in, and then they have nobody to run it, nobody to explain it, and until the project comes in, and then at that point they try and find some people. That's going to be where you want to start. And in fact, part of our role at ARwall is we're often the first hire for a new virtual stage because we're consulting with them to make sure that everything else goes smoothly in a production. So I'm sure the other folks here would agree that having that person who understands the entire process earlier on, even if we're just remote and we're just helping you remotely, that's going to be a really key to make it profitable. And then the other thing that I would say is know who your audience is prior to you purchasing the screen and the equipment. For example, maybe you're next door to a university and you're going to have lots of film schools coming in where you don't want to have a day rate that's $15,000 or something like that, and you're not going to be able to get any of those film students to come in. You want to have a day rate that's, maybe under $5,000. And that way, okay, these ones that have a little bit more of a budget and they're looking to save something on permitting and locations permitting and having a cop there and that type of stuff, they can come into your stage instead and get a solution that's right for them. Or maybe you're in Burbank and your main client is one of the major studios and you really just need to have the most extravagant thing possible to attract, a 2-month production or something like that. So you don't want to be in a situation where you're in a small town and you're building that Hollywood stage when what you really need is to get all the commercial directors around the area to know you and to come to your stage. That's a specific type of stage that's going to attract them.
So maybe to one of you, the question, so can XR reduce costs for production? So can it be lower budget than conventional or traditional? Or is it same level, or is it even increasing the budget? So anybody of you can give a short answer for that? So Totti, you raised the hand, but also Wayne is ready. So let's start with Wayne, and then we come to. Okay, Totti. Then it's go ahead, Totti.
Okay, thanks. I think this is the same questions for me. I think there's a misunderstanding that virtual shooting is much cheaper than like conventional, like a traditional video shooting, because a lot of people think, right, you don't need like to make a stage, you don't need like find a place, you don't need to no travels, no like deliveries. So I think that's the biggest misunderstanding, because we spend a lot of like a budget in rendering the LED screens and camera tracking systems and like XR servers, and that's the biggest budget. And the biggest budget will be the people, I think, like Rene mentioned, right? These people, these like experts, still very few comparing to like the traditional like filming people. It's very hard to find one. You spend a lot. If you want to have like extra studio, you need to hire somebody with a very high salary. This year is very, I think for the studio, it's hard for the bosses because they need to like spend a lot of money on their the employees' salaries every month. Make it crazy. So I think that spend a lot of money. And the second is the production. I think like Wayne and Rene they are experts, so they know how expensive to have like a production team. Production is not just buy like a virtual scene from the Unreal Epic Games like market. You need to find a way to recreate the whole virtual scenes. You need to have like a director, especially the virtual scene director, which is very different from the traditional ones, because well, for one side you are free to use the virtual light, virtual scenes. Yes, it's free, but it's make it more difficult to set up all different like virtual light to make a very neat virtual environment. I think for somehow it's more difficult than find just a physical place and shooting there. So, and also those people needs to know like the technology parts, and like the system integrations, the XR server, what is like a real-time rendering, what is the limitation of the real-time rendering. So those parts makes the team more, I will say, like more cost much more than traditional film. Maybe I'm wrong because I'm not like an expert in this field, but I guess because when I see the budget from our vendors, I would say, wow, that's a big budget. Not, when comparing to the traditional filmmakers, it's no less.
Wayne, is there something you can add? So otherwise, I think then I would come to my last question. But again, feel free if you want to add something for the budget question.
Yeah. I would say it's not necessarily a question of whether it's increasing, decreasing, or maintaining costs. It's shifting costs. You're creating a new workflow. You're creating different ways of doing things, new opportunities in your shot. So you're really shifting the cost one way or another. And that's for production to decide whether that cost is worth the gain. Certainly in XR, you've got real-time rendering going on the screen, so you're saving on post. You're also getting gains from that real-time rendering that's maybe saving you on a reshoot down the road. So there's a lot of considerations. It's not just like everything we've said today. There's no one set answer.
Yeah, okay, thank you for that. But maybe you can, Rene.
Well, I'll say one thing. One of the reasons why we've been successful in consulting with virtual stages is because I'm able to to communicate this narrative to them. Imagine that you're a soundstage and you're providing the creative scenes for a production that comes in. Think about the number of departments that you're taking their budget and bringing it to your stage and to your studio. We're talking about locations, construction, painting, production art, lighting, because there's going to be lighting in the screen as well. I'm talking about like CG lights that look beautiful and that type of stuff. You're also eating at visual effects, and soon we may be eating at acting and costume and makeup and hair and all that kind of stuff. So this is an industry where we're actually aggregating a larger amount of the film production budget into one provider, into one location. And I think that is the ultimate opportunity here, is to provide the exact same result or better result that traditional production would have, but that's all coming through your stage, and that's all being empowered through your stage. And that's it. That's really the promise as a stage owner that you can take away from this, is that it's starting with environments, it's starting with lighting, and it's just going to expand from there, and it's all going to be happening tied to your site. And I think that's the way that a lot of our stage partners are thinking about this.
Yeah. So now, please allow me one last question. Again, picking up the LED topic, where I'm working for an LED manufacturer. So if there is a customer asking for an advice, and who want to install an LED screen and getting XR experience, so what would be the first advice you would give him? So maybe that we limit to one advice. So starting with Rene. So what would be in your mind to advise him?
I think it'd be my actual advice that I give people, which is that get the right person to help you and get the right partner to help you right off the bat, because that's going to save you problems on the road. This is a new industry. With new problems and new solutions. And if somebody hasn't been down that road before, you're going to find yourself in a rut, and you're going to find yourself, broken down on the side of the road, wondering how to get out of there. And in that point, the first thing that you're going to be doing is rushing to find that person to help you. So find that person right off the bat, and that'll help you out.
Thank you for that. Quite reasonable. So Wayne, what would be your advice?
Pretty much the same exact thing. You have to have the right people and the right partners to do the job the right way.
Okay, so something different for you, Totti, or any other advice?
Hi, I'm back. Yeah, I totally agree with Rene. That's the most important. And for sure, as a founder of a studio, I would say, if you want to go this field, ask someone already has this XR studio, and ask them the advantages, disadvantages, and you have to know the budget, because a lot of people think that it's cheap because it's virtual. That's totally like a misunderstanding. So before you like totally understand what the field is and know the cost, and then make a decision if you want to get into it. And also you need to find a great market. I don't know overseas, but I would say from last year, China is like a great market. Every week the virtual shooting happens everywhere, Beijing, Shanghai, Shenzhen, everywhere. So find a great market and set up the XR studio there. They will be very helpful.
So last point, I would leave it again to my colleague Feifan to explain a bit more, to show a bit more about Absen products.
Sure, Christian. I would be certainly glad to make such an introduction about what kind of solution Absen is providing to this industry. As we just discussed in this roundtable, current LED solution in Virtual Studio is to coordinate the most advanced LED display with the virtual filming, the spectrum positioning, and the real rendering system to deliver the best video effect in assistance and I would say supplementary of the people-focused operation. The video source will be first output to the workstation and the engine, and then send it to the LED display. The camera with corresponding tracking system will shoot the scene with the background or the video effect created by the LED display, and then transmit all of it to the monitoring and recording system. So during this whole procedure, the LED display part, the backdrop display that's surrounding the stage will be the most typical type. But sometimes you also need the ceiling and the flooring display to create some lighting effects or get a more immersive experience. And although there is no single way for all different demands, Virtual Studio does have some specs or functional requirements to the LED display, where Absen LED solution is designed or created to meet it. First of all, you're gonna want your virtual scenario to be real and vivid, and that will require the LED display to be able to have a high color bit depth, so that you won't lose your details, and especially for those low gray areas. And Absen solution supports 10 or 12 bits source input, the HDR content, and the 16 bits output. The next one will be the high frame rate. Absen solution supports up to 144 Hz high frame rate, which could greatly reduce the influency issue that you may experience when you are trying to play in high-speed content. And Genoc, of course, is also supported. This is used to lock the processor refresh to the same rate of the camera shutters. And all Absen solution come with high refresh rate 3840 and up to the 7814 Hz ultra high refresh rate. And this is to help avoid the visible scanning lines under camera. And as we just mentioned, the reflection and the moire effect are also obstacles, standing against the perfect virtual stage. And Absen use special LED surface and mask design to reduce the reflection caused by the lighting and the generation of the moire effect. And last but not least, there is also the latency between the content and the image displayed on the screens. So with the Brompton control system, we can lower down that numbers to 1 frame. And those are the general requirements. Now we can come to the specific product combo in the Absen Virtual Studio solution. The first I'm going to show here is Polaris 2.5 Pro, which is just the right choice for your backdrop screen. It has a 2.5 pixel pitch, 500 millimeter square panel, and a resolution of 200 by 200 pixels per panel. As the top level model in the Polaris series, it has the highest level image quality and the color consistency to meet the demand of the virtual production. Well, it supports HDR10 standard content. It has a capability to output 16 bits color depth, and it can go up to 1500 nits brightness. If you are concerned about how can I build such a backdrop wall, and I would say no worries, because Absen is also providing easy to use ground staking system to do the job for you. Well, it can do both flat walls, right corners, or the curved wall from -7.5 degree convex to +10 degree concave. And Polaris 2.5 Pro is also a good solution when a ceiling display is needed. In this way, you can create an immersive stage using exactly the same product, which could bring down all the difference to the lowest level. And the customer demands are different, for those who want to invest on a smaller size, high resolution, and close shooting production stage, and maybe seeing the needs of moving it around. The AX 1.5 will be another option. You definitely want to keep your eye on it. This product has a 1.58 fine pitch and 610 by 343 millimeter cabinet size, which is native 16:9, and 27.5-inch diagonal size. A 4-in-1 IMD technology is also used in this product to provide high pixel durability. And together with the corner protection mechanism on this product, we can bring down the time and the labor cost caused by the pixel damage. And this product also has an embedded precise curving locks, which allow you to switch between the flat connection and the 2.5-degree concave connection. And those two products we just introduced are all for the backdrops. And the MR 4.8 will be our, and hopefully your, choice for the floor displays. It comes with a 4.8mm pixel pitch and 500mm square panel size, and as well as a strong cabinet that could provide enough loading capacity for those kinds of flooring applications. Well, it can be directly built to the ground in case of a simple setup, or it can be put onto our well-designed frames to do the group installation. And no matter which way we use, both the panels and the installation frames has adjustable fits on the corners to adapt to unflat and rough ground surface. And furthermore, the MR 4.8 product is equipped with the tempered glass, which is strong and clear, and it also supports different type of installation outside of its original floor use. For example, like the honey installation and the ground staking installation. And we have already mentioned about the Polaris 2.5 Pro as one of our setting screen options, but the weight of the total weight of the entire setting system will sometimes be a concern, and the JP's 4.68 product is born for that. With 600mm square panel, the weight is as low to 11.9 pounds per panel, or only 3 pounds per square feet. And also as a setting solution, the brightness can be up to 3000 nits, which could provide sufficient support to any light effect you may need from the top. So overall, with the Absen LED displays, the virtual solution can be further extended to other applications such as the concert, the online press release, the new product launching, the conference, or advertising shooting. So I can name all of it, but it always brings the cast and the audience to the immersive, amazing, virtual, but also pretty much real environment. So at last, I would like to invite all the audience, all of you, to enjoy some of the best Absen Virtual Studio case reference. Thanks again for joining us today.
So that means we're at the end for today. And I really appreciate to having you in our talk, in our roundtable talk. So special thanks again to you, Totti, to you, Wayne, Rene, and also Feifan. And also special thanks to Trans Quebec, which also provides some content, which provides some movies. So thank you for this roundtable, and I hope the audience out there got a better idea. And I just repeat what I said at the beginning. Don't hesitate to contact us if you want to dive in more deeply, and if you ideally want to set up your own studio. So see you. Stay tuned.